condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
After all of the nonsense and hyperbole and calls for war and this is enough and all of that nonsense, it wasn't even 48 hours before the dear leader just moved on and focused on what he deems to be important, a random ballroom for the White House.
He was very hurt when he saw this, but I mean, everybody was. Oh, when I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects and with design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, what do you mean dead? Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, And I said, dead.
The people that wanted to use Charlie Kirk's death as a way to push their agendas, even including the governor of Utah.
This bad stuff happens. And for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here.
Having pre-packaged propaganda punchlines didn't work for the governor of Utah, nor other representatives, not even from Utah.
This shit ends. Enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough, and I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops. It's got to stop.
But then realize that the person who did it more aligns with them than anybody else, are never going to mention Charlie Kirk again. The only ones who will are going to be the vultures that can eat off his carcass.
Because we're Americans, and we're not going to be deterred. Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that bloodstained microphone where Charlie left it.
Or irrelevant goofballs that realize they'll also only leave behind a legacy of hatred. So they're going to use this moment to try to get back in the spotlight and try to be part of the new wave of propaganda.
We must stop calling Charlie anything other than a civil rights leader. We need to plant that stake deep. It is time that we point out that what he was doing was not politics. What he was doing was trying to stand up for people's civil rights, to show people how a civilization is not a civilization unless you can have a dialogue with people who are diametrically opposed to you, that don't believe anything that you believe in. And yet you can have a civil dialogue, and how important that is. That's our civil right, our right to free speech. And that gunman was trying to take that right away from him and from you and everyone else. Shut up. You will be silenced. You will not say those things. And there has been a force in this country to try to convince people that you don't have a right, that you have a responsibility to silence others. You don't. In this country, one of our main civil rights is we can express ourselves the way we feel we need to express ourselves. And I'm sorry, if you don't like it, you have to just take it and then say, I'd like to have a discussion with you on that. I'd like to know how you got there. I'd like to have the opportunity to argue against that. And you have that right to argue against it. And hopefully, if we are more like Charlie Kirk, we're having those dialogues with each other in a civilized fashion. But make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader as much as Martin Luther King. I'm waiting to see the first city that will make a Charlie Kirk Boulevard. Phoenix, you should be the one. There's a Martin Luther King Boulevard. There should be a Charlie Kirk Boulevard. Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader, and we must take that for him and own that, because all of these so-called civil rights leaders, Black Lives Matter, that was a money scam. That had nothing to do with anything other than money and power. Charlie was actually fighting for civil rights.
Ah, yes, of course, because the person who thought the Civil Rights Act was a mistake was, in his own unique and creative way, was actually fighting for civil rights, for more civil rights. Yeah, of course.
We note in our piece that Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true. And Kirk self-described very, very radical view that the country made a mistake when it passed the Civil Rights Act. Also true. As we note in the piece, Kirk has previously described Kirk as a hero and a civil rights icon. It's true. I used to be wrong. What inspired Kirk to shift his view on MLK? Why does Kirk think that MLK is a bad guy? When Kirk says that MLK says, quote, one good thing he didn't believe, what does he mean by that? Why does Kirk believe passing the Civil Rights Act was a mistake? Now, again, apparently they don't listen to the show because we do that at least once a week, right? Once a week we talk about why the Civil Rights Act was a mistake.
People like Glenn Beck and others are now realizing that even though they were very impactful in their time, Charlie Kirk was probably more public than they ever were. And if he's being forgotten this quickly, what's going to happen with their name and legacy? So they're trying to turn Charlie Kirk into a martyr and push propaganda off his name, hoping that when they pass, someone is willing to do that with them. Which on the surface seems like they're trying to carry on the legacy of their quote-unquote friend, but really is just a twisted and cynical ploy at trying to harvest the carcass of a dead man. While others are using this time and moment to push for mass surveillance and censorship, something that they pretend to always be against.
Charlie Kirk, for the people that are selling t-shirts, mocking his execution. For the people that are saying he deserved it for some such other reason. These people must be ostracized from our society. We must identify them. We must have them fired from their jobs. They must be censored on social media. There must be a cost.
These feds, undercover or not, are going to use whatever at their disposal, any story, any situation, to push for more censorship. They're never going to let a good story go to waste. Maybe they think Palantir is going to work on their behalf, targeting their enemies and never them. But eventually they'll quickly learn that that's not the case. And even if it's 24 hours later, when it's time to move on, it's time to move on and get back to what's really important: unity and moral clarity.
Radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime.
Yeah, well, there goes that. Because the show must go on no matter what the facts are. Who cares? As all this hoopla fades away, I hope this serves as a reminder to everybody who spreads hate for money. I get it, millions of dollars is millions of dollars. Do your thing. But if anything were to happen to you, these people that cheer you on will forget about you in an instant. So you might as well say stuff that you actually believe that adds to the world. Unless you're just gonna be hating for the love of the game. Then I would understand, because that's what you actually believe. So it doesn't matter whether you're here or not to continue it. But if it's just for the money, it may not be worth it. This isn't a eulogy, nor is it kicking a man while he's down forever. This is just meant to be an eye-opener for everybody else. Peace.